Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner operator of Something Wicked Film Festival and Events, and welcome to our program today. Now, if you've been with us, you know that our format is kind of different than a lot of other shows in that each episode, I and a special guest always kind of take one individual film and kind of dissect it, critique, analyze, and have a general conversation about it. Now, this single film could be from any different subgenre of horror. It could be from any decade. It could be virtually anything. Because on this program, we like to just kind of delve a little bit into everything. Oh, yeah. It kind of brings us into our film that we're going to be discussing today. But first, before I get to the title of the film, I would like to introduce my co-host for today, and that's Jim Adams. Everyone should be familiar with him. He's been on the show many times. Jim, thank you for joining us today.
Must be a found footage film. No.
Today,
it is sort of a found footage film, and then again, it's not. I mean, it uses found footage, but it's really a mockumentary. So, or what I would call a mockumentary, because it's done sort of documentary style, using what was apparently found footage. Anyway, we'll get into all of that.
And the film,
but I'm your guy for the found footage stuff, anyway.
And the film that he is discussing or trying to talk about, without actually saying the name of it, is The Last Broadcast.
I figured people would have figured that out.
No, I doubt anyone would have figured that out. We were too cryptic. I doubt it. We know that The Last Broadcast is pretty, by today's standards, it's pretty generic to the found footage genre.
It is. It really became sort of a found footage film before it was cool. I mean, this is just before Blair Witch, which I still feel sort of the granddaddy of all the found footage films, for the most part. But these guys, they didn't steal from one another. They were both in production about the same time. And but of course, Blair Witch had been working on theirs for about 5 years before they finally got it finished, from concept to actually getting the money and all that stuff. So, because I had read where some people thought, they just stole Blair Witch's idea, but no, they didn't. And Blair Witch didn't steal theirs. They sort of both just came up with an idea at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I actually see this something almost closer to the way that Cannibal Holocaust comes about. Where
yes, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, more so than a straightforward found footage.
Yep.
So
instead of dealing with a TV network, we're dealing with cable access, or public access, as it was called back then.
Yeah.
Well, that brought back some memories, because I used to teach a public access course at a cable company I was working for years ago when I was in television production and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
I was back in the 80s, back in the old days.
So how did you come about seeing this film for the first time? And what was your impressions of it?
Well, let's see. It was during the lockdown, and I just moved to Atlanta. I'm pretty sure I was here in Atlanta. I wasn't at the old house. And back then I wasn't working. Everybody was, not working or whatever for many months there. And so I was watching a whole lot of movies and streaming. And I hadn't been able to stream at my old house, so I was really just in a kid and candy store with all these streaming services that I could access. And this one, the title just sort of jumped out at me, and I thought, okay, this is a horror film. The Last Broadcast. Okay, that would be sort of interesting. What the heck? And the little thumbnail was, this group of guys with a public access show were going to go out and investigate the Jersey Devil. And that got my attention. I thought, that's sort of cool. That's always been sort of an intriguing story, a legend or whatever. And when I watched it, it was like, I thought it was pretty clever in what they tried to do. It could have been done a lot better, but, it held my attention. It was entertaining, and they had a nice hook at the end. So, yes, folks, we're going to spoil everything in case you want to go see this first, because it's got some nice twists and turns in it that you might want to see first before you listen to this podcast.
Yeah. And just a forewarning for most of you who are listening to this podcast, if you haven't seen any of the films before you actually listen to the podcast and you don't want to have any spoilers, you probably should stop and go watch the movie and then come back and listen to the show.
Yeah, hard to talk about them without talking some kind of spoiler.
Exactly. I actually saw this film not that long after the Blair Witch Project came out, because
Wow. Okay.
the Blair Witch Project came out in '99.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
happened was this film got resurrected by a lot of magazines and a lot of different people who were saying that one copied off the other. It was a whole thing, like you mentioned earlier.
Right. Right.
And so I seeked the movie out. Now, I saw it on VHS. I'm pretty sure I rented it from someplace. I can't remember where, because it was a hard to find VHS.
It was probably a mom and pop video store, I bet you, because I don't know if the big franchise stores would have carried this one.
Yeah. See, I don't remember either, but I remember seeing it on VHS right after the Blair Witch Project.
Yeah.
And I rented it because I never owned this movie. So I rented it, watched it. I wasn't really that impressed with it, because after watching the Blair Witch Project, this film itself was kind of like, and I never saw it again until we decided to do the podcast for the film.
Right, and I imagine it probably seems a little amateurish compared to Blair Witch.
Well, and even Blair Witch Project seems amateurish for a
no, but I mean, but there was still a style about it that was pretty cool.
I love Blair Witch Project. I don't know if there's
I did too when I first saw it.
Style for it, because it's 3 different cameras filming it.
True.
I think more of Blair Witch Project is the way it is because of the editing and how this footage, how the footage is integrated. The difference between this one and, like I mentioned, it's closer to something like Cannibal Holocaust.
Yes.
That
yeah.
The audience, or the filmmaker by the name of David Lee, I want to make sure I got his name right.
Yes.
David Lee is the so-called documentarian who decided to kind of figure out and find out what actually happened with this whole Jim, what's his name?
Jim Seward.
And the whole team of filmmakers who were going out there to the woods, the film an episode of,
and of course, and the name of the characters are variations of the actual names of the people.
Very much like Blair Witch Project.
Yeah. Very much so. Yeah.
And the Stephen and Locust characters are the people who are doing their fact or fiction broadcast,
right? And they were the main guys who did the movie.
Yeah,
who paid for and got the money for the movie. I think it was $900 is what they shot this movie.
Well,
which was pretty good back then. I mean,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, they want to do to open up their potential audience and to actually keep their show on the air.
Right.
They want to do a live broadcast of them to the woods, the search, the Pine Barrens, the search for the Jersey Devil.
Right.
Over the course of, I guess, one night or one day.
The thing that really got me about this film, right in the very beginning of it, was I didn't realize how active the internet was. I mean, I was sort of exposed to the internet in 97, 98, somewhere around there, but I didn't really realize how active it was. From seeing this movie, it was like, wow, I didn't realize there were that many people on the internet back then, but apparently, because they utilized a lot of internet stuff. And that just seemed very unusual to me for film back then, that I didn't realize it was as active as, they're talking about IRC chats. I remember them. They were sort of like the old bulletin board rooms or whatever and stuff. But that really stood out to me. And I think both Blair Witch and this one used that quite a bit.
But the difference with this, and like we said, Blair Witch, is those were filmmakers going out to shoot a film, and this group, they want to shoot the live broadcast for their show because they're trying to save their show.
Yeah, and a combination broadcast, because it was going to be on the internet, it was going to be on the public access, which, and I was thinking back then, in the 80s, we couldn't have pulled that off. Not a live feed like that. They were going to do a live feed from the location. I mean, all kinds of stuff that was not really done very much back then by like amateurs like them.
And part of that is actually brought up because at the very beginning with David, he's trying to gather up all this information about each of the individual people involved in the incident, so to speak. He's interviewing all these professional. They're interviewing these people to try and get an idea of what could have happened to to the Steven and Locust, and of course their sound person, who I can't think of his name right off the back.
It was a weird name, no, and I just it just blanked on me too.
Ryan.
Ryan, yeah.
Yeah, Ryan. Ryan. And so these, and our main character, Seward, is kind of like a psychic. So
He was well. He called himself a psychic.
he calls himself.
He said he could find the Jersey Devil for them. He would be able to zone in and reach the spiritual realm and target right where the Jersey Devil was living or whatever.
Yeah. So, the thing about this movie is the setup, and they do a lot of information in regards to the setup of the film.
Oh, yeah.
Steven is the kind of like the person who wants to take his show Fact or Fiction seriously. He takes his job seriously. And of course, his partner, Locust, is the one who always says, well, it's just a fun show to do.
Yeah, it's just a TV show.
It's
just public access.
Yeah, we're never going to make any money off this.
Right.
Thing to do. And then, of course, when they decide Steven wants to make it bigger. He wants to get the fame and fortune and all that.
Oh, he's convinced that Fact or Fiction is a jump off for him.
He's convinced it's a jump off.
Be a big TV star.
So he takes this whole broadcasting very seriously by bringing all this equipment, and he decides to bring in a psychic, which is the Jim character, something they've never really used before.
Right.
The thing that makes the story interesting in regards to Jim the psychic is that he is kind of this guy who uses the internet, like we were discussing, but he's also a magician. So you can be sure that what he's doing isn't a playful trick,
right?
Or if it's genuine that he's a real psychic.
Well, they had those scenes on there where he made ashes spell out something on his arm. And I forgot what, and then he'd make stuff disappear. I mean, and I kept thinking, I used to do stage magic as a kid, and I thought, this is a lot of sleight of hand stuff. So, I mean, how would you know if, I thought right from the beginning he was a phony. But, they give you that, was he or wasn't he, Was he just, a good illusionist, or did he really have psychic abilities?
Well, so that's an interesting thing to bring up, because you have these two. You have the Steven and the Locust character who are trying to do a real episode.
Oh yeah. They're not trying to be legit. No, they want to be legitimate about it. Yeah.
Steven purposely says that at one point in the footage that David's watching, that he doesn't want to just play it up. He wants to have the real thing. He wants to show off the real thing. But
and again, one of the reasons they're wanting to salvage their ratings is they had a couple of screw ups. Steven was, what was it? They were going to find the infamous snow angel or something, and Locust is on the camera while Steven's out in this field, and he's going, if he hadn't procrastinated so much, maybe we would have found the snow angel. And you see Steven out there just going nuts.
Yeah.
Because he's kicking snow and stuff, and he can't find it. Apparently, they've had a few of those boneheaded moves that have driven the viewers away from their show.
So it is called Fact or Fiction,
right?
And they're trying to find something that's always been mythological, anyways. I guess
nobody. It's like well, I don't want to say it's like Bigfoot, because I'm still at odds about what Bigfoot is, and we won't get into that on this show. We've got other movies to talk about that.
Yeah,
but the Jersey Devil's always fascinated me, because it's almost like the Loch Ness Monster, except in New Jersey, because the people in that part of New Jersey really, they claim to have seen it, or seen fleeting it, but nobody's ever gotten a picture of it. There have been
drawings.
Drawings. Cattle's been killed, or animals have been killed, or they find them sort of half eaten out there, and they don't really know what it is.
No, I kind of see that as the American version of a chupacabra. Some of the pictures I've seen.
That's a great analogy. That's exactly what it's a chupa. I can't say chupacabra right now.
Yeah, but I've always liked.
Yes, yeah, it's exactly that kind of a legend. Yes.
But the thing is, I've always liked the ideal of the way the X-Files did the Jersey Devil.
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah, I
You know,
just saw that episode not too long ago.
It's someone who was it was a young woman who I guess was raised in the wild.
Yes, yes.
That's more believable to me than it would be.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, like somebody who was raised by wolves or whatever. She was more animal than human. Yeah.
I know it'd be hard to see that nowadays, or we would think it would be hard to think about nowadays. But anyone who's seen the show Yellow Jackets knows what the wild can do to you.
Yes,
stuck out there too long. That'll be my only plug to the Yellow Jackets. But getting back to the last broadcast,
right?
The thing is, these filmmakers go out, or these television show makers, however you want to call them.
Whatever.
They go out to the woods, and they are simply completely following this Jim person that they don't really know too well. Like they follow him into the woods wherever he goes. It doesn't matter where he goes.
He leads them to where he said it. Yeah, he knows where it's at.
With no forethought, and so it becomes this weird thing, almost like Blair Witch Project, where they go in the woods.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, something happens. And the thing I like about this film is that it opens. That it doesn't really open with the 911 call that Jim makes to the police, but it right after it kind of introduces what the movie is supposed to be about.
Right.
You go into the 911 call that Jim makes and says he's been looking for Stephen, Locus, and Ryan.
And Ryan, yeah, the guys that took me out there. I found the car, but I can't find them.
And that's a very interesting way to begin the film, because
it is. Yeah.
In reality, if someone does something like that, you're going to think that this is an innocent person and not the instigator of murder. But unfortunately for both Jim and the way the story unfolds, Jim is eventually accused of killing his friends out in the woods when two of the bodies are discovered, but not the third body.
And so I think there was some blood evidence. I think they found some clothes of his at his house
that
clothes had their blood on it.
Whatever he was wearing in theory had the blood from all three victims on there. And of course, they only found Locus and Ryan's body, but
Steve. They never found him. Yeah, never found his body at all.
But it's a great setup.
It is. It's a great. Yeah, I mean it got me right from the beginning. And again, even though I was pretty sure this was a mockumentary, found footage type thing, because I'd seen so many of them up until this, because it was like 2020 when I watched this for the first time. But there was a side of me going, wait a minute, is this really a guy doing a documentary on this, on a real murder here, or what? I wasn't really quite sure what I was watching there. Are they just reenacting? And I was, until the end of the movie, I was ready to go start looking this up on the internet to see if it was a legitimate murder or not, because they did that well enough where they got me sort of questioning, God, is this real or not? I was sort of believing it there in the beginning, which was great. It played right into their hands.
Well, yeah. The other thing I did like about this is once you kind of get the setup for all this, and the fact that you hear from David that Jim was eventually put on trial. He was found guilty. He went to jail for the murder of
life
his
sentence. Yep.
But then, of course, he commits suicide
or whatever. Yeah, he dies mysteriously. They don't really. Yeah, they assume that, or some people assume that, but they're really not sure what happened. Yeah. But before this David Lee came into the picture, he was already dead. So that was one guy that Lee couldn't hear. I remember, and he mentioned that. I wish I could have talked to him, because I would have liked to have heard his perspective. So it's making it a little harder for me because he's convinced that maybe he thought there was some evidence to suggest that maybe this guy wasn't guilty, but there were some questions that it was, even though it seemed like a pretty cut and dry case from what we were presenting, with the the blood evidence and stuff like
Yeah.
that maybe they rushed to it a little bit too quickly, and there
Well,
might have been some because there were some things that just didn't add up in his mind, so he wanted to do
yeah.
a documentary on it and see is he really guilty or not.
which leads us to some of the more interesting things that unfold later on.
Yes, yeah.
I think the biggest comment that had me thinking this was very much like Cannibal Holocaust is the fact that David comes across this footage that's more like a box footage that they don't know what it is, but what happens is he enlists the aid of a Michelle, or Shelly as he likes to call her.
Right, he's got someone to put it together and
put it all
restore
together,
it.
And so it feels like.
And where did the box come from that had the VHS in there? Who knows?
No, they never.
That's never really explained. It just shows up in his mail.
Just shows up.
Yeah.
But Shelly is slowly and painstakingly goes through all this footage, and as she does so, David's watching it and commenting on it, and as the audience member, we're slowly realizing that what we thought was the truth in regards to what has happened is not correct.
Yes, that's right.
So
I think they first discovered that just from that footage, from the found footage, that almost exonerates Jim Seward, because from where they figured. Because they did have a body to work, or a couple of bodies to work with, they sort of knew the time of death and the circumstances around that. And at the time, they had, and again, folks, this is for older folks, something called an IRC, and that was like a chat room in the early days of the internet. And they had this going while they were doing their investigations, and they could prove that Jim was on the computer in an IRC chat with the folks watching this watching this show or whatever, while these guys were supposedly being murdered. That it would have, if that had been brought out in the trial, it might have cleared him of all the charges. That's the first thing that gets everybody saying, "Oh, wait a minute, maybe he wasn't guilty."
Yeah, and that's the one thing that the first thing that both David and Shelly come up with.
Right.
Footage kind of sets a timeline for when certain things happen.
Yes.
And,
yes.
While the Locust and Ryan characters are in theory still alive when he's supposed to have been killing them on the video footage, which no one other than David and Shelly were able to see this footage. So that kind of
because some of the footage that the cops had, they had given to an editor who they called the killer editor. Because he put so many people in jail with his, and he'd put together a compilation of some of the other footage that they did have. And a lot of it showed like Jim sort of lost his temper in one sequence where he pushed Steven, and he got really upset with something that I think Locust had said something like, is this really, are you doing this for real?
Yeah.
Or whatever. And then he went storming back, and so sort of established that he had a temper and could get violent, and a lot of that just hung him in. But now what these guys, what David and Shelly are looking at, paint a whole different picture of what really happened out there.
Yeah, and so it becomes a mystery then.
That's when I started getting really interested in what was going on. I said, "Oh wait a minute, this is getting sort of cool now. Maybe there's a real Jersey Devil out there." I was sort of hoping that's what would happen. I wanted to see what they would show.
Yeah, because the difference between this one and other found footage films is that there is, in theory, you never get the sense that there is an actual real monster out there.
No. I never really took it seriously like a lot of them do.
So while you're watching it, you're always thinking that maybe Jim did it, maybe something else did it, but you're not thinking that some Jersey Devil monster killed these guys.
Yeah, in all honesty, I mean, it was like they decided to pick the winter time to do this. And anyone that's lived up there knows that this is not a good thing to go. It's not good to go camping in New Jersey in the middle of the winter. It's not pleasant. I mean, as a Boy Scout in New York, we did a little camping in the winter, but it wasn't fun.
Yeah.
But I kept thinking, gee, maybe why wouldn't a New Jersey Devil like hibernate? During the cold set, maybe he's like in a cave somewhere, hibernated away. But why would you go out then? Wait until the summer to. But that's all that was going through my mind first time I saw this.
It is very odd because when I was rewatching it, and like I said, this was only the second time I'd ever seen it, so I had forgotten everything about the movie from the first time I saw it.
Yeah,
20 years ago, over 25 years ago. So when I rewatched it, I was paying a little bit more attention to the story and those type of aspects. Once it is revealed that maybe Jim didn't kill his friends, the idea of what could have done it starts to creep into your mind.
That's right.
And because we aren't given any visual cues regarding an actual Jersey Devil.
No, that's right.
I always kind of thought in the back of my brain that maybe it was a human who did it. But
yeah, I did too, because I mean they didn't find any footprints or any kind of things you would expect to find an animal of any type in that kind of environment. They didn't find any evidence that anything had been there, really.
Nope. Oh, and hate to say this, but this could have been just also because it's a low budget movie and they weren't thinking of all that type stuff. But
well, it could be, but putting all their trust in the guy who claims to be a psychic. Yeah, boy.
Yeah, I mean, it would be hard pressed for them to get to like do this type of movie in this day and age now, because you would see that the psychic investigators or the people who are the paranormal investigators would actually probably be doing lots of interviews and tests with the person if they're going to use a psychic.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you could vet them a lot easier.
Vet them, thank you. Vet the psychic.
I know that's the new big term now. The big fad term now.
Because I don't think they did a really good job vetting Jim.
No, they didn't. They just met him that one time, and
yeah,
cool, come on, I mean, he said yes. He wanted to do it. It's like, oh, that's good enough for me. It was like Steven was so hot to do this no matter what. He was the first guy that really said, yeah, I really want to do this. You're in.
Well, the other thing is that Steven is so caught up in trying to have a good show based on what happened before.
Right.
And because his body's not found, you also get the impression that maybe he did something instead of Jim, and Jim was just framed for it.
That went through my mind too, because there was no evidence of this guy at all, which is really rare that you'd find these other two bodies, but somehow the third one never showed up at all.
Never showed up.
Yeah.
But of course, as Shelley and David are looking at this reconstituted footage that was handed to them, a lot of the story starts to unfold. Now, this is the last third of the movie, the last act.
Right. Yeah,
last act. Because this is a short movie. It's really like the last 15 minutes or so where we get this new this new footage and stuff. And it's so badly damaged that Michelle has to do a lot of rendering. I
didn't realize they had that much software back then that could do that kind of restoring. But apparently, I guess that did exist back then. I mean, I know in the 80s we couldn't have done anything with footage like that, but I guess not in the late 90s. Yeah, I guess maybe. Well, they would do it on some of the FBI shows back then around 97, 98. So I guess that kind of hardware or software was out there. But I was sort of intrigued with that, of how she was cleaning it up, and an image slowly appeared in that one section that they thought might be the killer.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool. I got sort of into that.
Well, it is because that's when the film gets more technical.
Yeah.
For the most part, they kind of briefly go into a lot of the technical stuff other than the IRC, which is, what was it? Internet
Relay Chat, I think is what it stands for.
Internet Relay Chat, which at the time was very new yet popular, but it was how the show got the idea for doing the Jersey Devil.
Right.
There's some other topic, and it also worked towards getting Jim and
it was basically how people texted back then.
Yeah,
you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it on your cell phone. because the cell phones back then were very, very,
Mhm.
I mean, barbaric. I mean, there was nothing to it. You could just basically call people. That was it. But this was a version of digital texting of some sort,
Yeah,
and have it with your computer. It was like instant messaging nowadays.
that's exactly what it's like.
I'm trying to think. Just trying to think because I mean, God, it seems like back then we couldn't do anything hardly at all when it came to computers.
Hey, our technology went leaps and bounds.
Absolutely.
Which is why this film, watching it now, seems a little passe.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there are some interesting ideals in this film. Now, after, of course, we see that Shelley has rendered this unrenderable original for, I think it was 20 days and then a few hours or something.
Something like that, yeah. Almost 3 weeks.
A long period of time just to render it and get the image that she gets on there. And unfortunately for her, David.
Here's the big hook.
the big hook. The big hook is David is the one on the footage. Who is the one who more than likely killed everyone.
And I never saw it coming. I thought it was going to be a picture of Stephen. I really thought it was going to be Stephen. It was going to be his face that showed up when she rendered that, because they were convinced this had to be the killer because of the time of it and stuff. And then we see this face, pure anger face, and it was like, oh God, it's the damn documentary guy.
Which the reason
I never saw that coming. I got to admit, folks, I'll confess. Usually I'm pretty good at it, but I never saw that one coming.
Well, for me, it didn't make any sense. When I rewatched it, it just didn't make any sense because it
was senseless murders.
The thing is like this. He's a documentary filmmaker who I guess decided to make some senseless murders for no apparent reason.
So he could make a documentary about trying to solve the murders, I guess.
Yeah, but those murders, if they hadn't been like national attention, then they would have just fizzled out and died.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was trying to think of his motivation behind that too, and all that, and how he could do it in such a way that they wouldn't know it was him.
Yeah, it was.
But you're not really left to know what happened.
No, because the film.
I mean, he's the movie ends with him and his little camera, and he's doing an intro to his next show, or his next documentary film, or whatever.
Yeah. Now, one of the strange things about this reveal is that he kills Shelley.
Oh, he has to, because she's the only one that knows.
Yeah, but it becomes weird because if he had any inkling that this footage that was delivered to him anonymously had any real evidence of the killings of these people, he would have never bothered to look at it to begin with.
I don't know. I think it's sort of one of those situations like, even though when he first got that stuff, it was like unwatchable or whatever, but there was always that chance that she could clean it up enough to, and I assume it's footage that came from either, Ryan's camera or Locust, because all of them had little cameras that they were shooting.
No, they mentioned that the first half of the footage all came from one camera, but when Shelley's cleaning up the second half,
I mean that was another camera. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think. So it had to be either one of the guys that got killed, or someone who was in a position to take a picture of the killer.
Yeah. So it's like someone took the footage, cut it up, threw it in a box, and then sent it to them. Is essentially how it came, which is a very interesting concept back then because it was, it was some type of film that you can splice. No, it was like videotape. It was videotape. Well, one of them had videotape. Was it all videotape?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because she was working on I recognized the machine she was working on, and that was working with videotape.
Okay,
it was the kind of stuff we had at the TV station back then, although we were using 3/4 inch tape, and this was 1/2 inch tape that she was working with. But I had like an editing system for many years that worked with half-inch VHS tapes, a home editing type system that I had when I first started my own little company or whatever. I was doing videos for folks.
I remember splicing actual film footage in college, and then of course,
now that's a whole new ballgame where you have to actually cut and paste. And,
yeah,
I did that with 8mm film.
Yeah. I did that with 16mm film.
Yeah.
I did not do it with 8mm film.
But I was under the impression that the footage that he got in the mail was just like a video cassette. Because back then, if they were shooting that, I think this was just before they came in with the little digital cameras.
Mm-hmm.
They used the little mini tapes, but it may have been one of those early mini tape, because it was some kind of tape she was having to work with to clean up.
Mini DVD.
Yeah, the little mini digital tapes.
I think I still have my mini DVD.
And then they had what they called an 8mm tape as well. It was just the size of the tape or whatever. But they did, it was digital quality because it was not optical. It was done electronically.
Yeah.
So that's what I was figuring it was like he was sent this tape. And even though it looked like it was unwatchable, because I guess probably because of being out in the elements and all that stuff, but just in the there was that chance that you could clean it up. He had to be there when it happened so that he could take care of business, so the secret wouldn't get out.
Yeah, it is, but it's kind of weird to me.
But they implied that when he wraps her up in plastic.
Mm-hmm.
Stuffs her in his Jeep, but he had like a little SUV, and goes out in the middle of nowhere. And I after watching it I didn't get this the first time, but watching it the second time, it was like, I wonder if that's where he stashed the body of Stephen. If he took her out to where Stephen's body was, because they didn't find him, and it was a place he knew that they probably wouldn't find her as well. That's the only thing that went through my mind, that he was really just trying to, so that he could come up with a documentary that exonerated Jim, even though Jim was dead, and maybe make himself famous and go on, just because they never really, led you to believe he was going to get caught.
No. Well, I think I have this impression more watching it the second time, that I think that they just wanted to have a twist ending at the very end.
They had one, yeah.
I don't think the film really needed one, but they did this anyways. And so for me, the ending just seems a little lackluster, but you get a sense of each one of the characters in this film, and how they would possibly react to this type of situation.
Oh, yeah.
I like the fact that they don't go much into the Jersey Devil.
No, not at all.
It's like it's a non-starter. It's just there for background flavor.
It's a vehicle.
It's a MacGuffin.
It really is. Yeah, it really is.
And it keeps you as the audience kind of intrigued, like if you were watching an actual fact or fiction episode.
Yeah.
So you're kind of wondering in the back of your mind, is there a Jersey Devil? Was it really the cause of these people dying? And was Jim innocent? Or
was David, one thing we didn't mention, of course, I mentioned so much now that people don't need to watch the movie. During the TV show, one of their TV shows, when they said, hey, we're going to be going off the air, we're going to be hanging it all up, and they could take calls on the air. Now we could do that back in the 80s. It's also the same way that you would do it at a radio station. What they had was, it was on an IRC. It was like a text, and they had a text to speech interpreter. I mean, those early computer ones that sounded like a computer voice. And so they got that mysterious call that said, why don't you look into the Pine Bluffs? Why don't you look into that murder? Or something. They go, oh, wow, yeah, there might be sort of, and that gave them the whole idea. Stephen got the idea that this might be the thing that saves us. That, this unexplained mystery that nobody knows, what happened. And who knows? Maybe that was David who did all that. It might have been.
That's
David.
what I wanted to get to.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you were doing a good job.
Yeah. But that, the first time I didn't quite put that one together. The second viewing, which was, not as long distance between your first and second viewing as 2020, and then here 2025, where I saw it for the second time, and it was like, oh, wait a minute, yeah, why didn't I see that earlier? Okay.
So watching it like the 20 plus years in between, I have a different outlook on the movie now than I did then.
I imagine so.
I've seen so many found footage films since.
Yeah.
So these aspects like this that are not, in a lot of other found footage films are the things that make me interested in this film. The mystery aspect of this is what I really gravitated to the second watching of the film.
No, that's what I liked about this film all around. It was just very clever. It was just a clever concept. And,
and I think having watched it so close to the superior Blair Witch Project when I did see it, kind of colored my kind of outlook.
It could have, because the two wouldn't match up really well together. I mean, those guys had a budget of $60,000. These guys had 900. So
the concepts are also much different.
Very different. Yeah,
we are literally in Blair Witch Project. We are literally watching the found footage of what happened to these people.
Yes.
This one, it's a show about a show that went into the woods, and then what happens afterwards. Time. There is time in between when we are watching this.
Right.
And David gets the box with all the extra footage, and we watch that.
Yeah, right.
And so it's got a different kind of flavor to it than I was expecting, because I honestly.
But I'm thinking David set this whole thing up, the whole thing from the beginning, and had it all planned out how he was going to do it, just make it an even bigger mystery than it was, because showing that the guy that got convicted and that got the life sentence for all these murders was actually could not have done it. So who did it? But nobody would have ever figured it was him.
No, and the funny thing about this movie itself is that you have to, by the time they do all the reveals by the end of the movie, you have to have a lot of suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
It's almost. And you didn't do this show with me. Sarah Panazzo did the show with me, but we did an episode on the movie Creep, and that film where the main killer is manipulating the entire film from the very beginning, and you don't realize that to the very end. Is kind of like what happens here, except for
I think so. Yeah,
this was a little bit more messy.
It is, yeah. It's a little sloppy, yeah.
But it's raw. That's the thing about this movie.
Yes, it is. It is very raw, yeah. That was one thing I sort of liked about it.
Well, no, that's what I was about to.
It gave it a little bit. It's probably why I got pulled into it so easily, because I really sort of lost myself in this film. The 3 times I've only seen it 3 times, but each time I really got pulled into the story and just. As if I was really watching some old public access show or whatever, and so it was a lot. Even though the third time around I knew it was all phony. I mean, I knew the hook and everything, the surprise ending, but it still managed to grab hold of me. I liked that about it. That was one aspect of the film that I thought, okay, you guys did good on that one.
I think that's the concept and ideals that work for the film. I don't think and this is the hard thing, so you have to give me a little of your insight on this. For me, I didn't really get a great sense of any of the other characters, like who they were, kind of thing. Like when we're watching the Blair Witch Project with just those 3 characters, we get a sense of who they are.
That's true.
As we're watching the movie.
That's true.
With this film, it's kind of we're only seeing the surface of any of these characters,
except for Jim Seward. That's the only guy that they really go into any detail on, and still there's a lot that we don't know about the guy. I mean, we know what his landlady thought about him and some of the neighbors and things, but you're right. I mean, we know a little bit about Stephen, hardly know anything about Locus, and then these other characters, are just Ryan. just know he's a sound guy. Yeah, and you're right. They don't go into very much detail on that, and it's more how they interact with one another. And Ryan actually doesn't interact with anybody hardly. I think he has one scene where they sort of jump. The tempers are flaring a little bit, and they get on him a little bit about something he did with the sound. But it's basically Stephen and Jim. We see that interchange. That's about as detailed as we get.
Yeah,
that they're rubbing each other the wrong way a little bit, and Stephen's obsession with not so much he wants a good show. It's just like, this is, if this show goes, his whole career is over. I mean, I really felt like that actor, did a good job of bringing that across, that, this was life or death for him. Yeah, he couldn't see it. And he was a young guy, if your public access show bombs, then you try something else. But he didn't see it that way. If this failed, then he couldn't go any farther.
Yeah.
But that's really the only detail they went into, is those two guys, I think.
Now, do you think the film? Now, I don't even know how to ask this question, because it's a very difficult question to ask, because this film kind of was a precursor of found footage films before they were really popular.
Yeah, it was. It really was. Yeah.
So it because they reveal it, and I think this is what got me. I think I'm trying to remember if this is the movie where it breaks the style at the end or not.
It does. No, yes. Because when he kills Kelly, it stops being a found footage film, and now we're seeing a third camera, a static camera, showing him commit the murder, load the body up, and that's when it becomes a regular movie.
Yeah, and I think
you're right about that. Yeah, it totally drops
the ball.
Else. Yep.
It drops the ball because it's not part of any original footage, and it's not part of the footage that David is shooting for his film. It is just in the film.
They're just allowing us now to see what happened.
Yeah, and I think that is the worst thing about the movie. I really hate movies. I
would probably get on it more if this film had been released like in 2016 or 2017, after all these found footage films have been out there. But since it's right at the very beginning, I'm giving them that one. Just it's sort of like, okay, we got you, and now we're going to show you what he's going to do. It's like, okay, let's see what happens here. Because I can't see David filming himself doing all that stuff.
No.
That would defeat the whole purpose of him killing Shelley. It's like, it'd still have evidence that he was a murderer. So that, but you're right. Stepping out of that genre now all of a sudden and just going to a more traditional film at the the last 3 minutes of it at best. It's not very much.
Nah, but the thing is,
but it does sort of hurt it a little bit. Yeah, you're right.
For me, I really hate when films do that. Now, I'm going to mention two other films that do that, and one of them I liked and one of them I hated. One of them was The Pyramid, which is a found footage film, but I've commented plenty of times on the fact that I think that the filmmakers got bored of the found footage aesthetic and decided to insert shots that are not found footage.
We're of a similar mind on that, because I had the same problem with The Pyramid. Yeah,
right. And I'm like, dude, this is horrible. Why did you break your own?
It was like they just said, "Oh, screw it." Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It felt like they.
I felt that way too.
Yeah. So I couldn't stand that. I recently tried to rewatch it, and I was like, dude, it still bothers me.
Yeah.
The other movie that breaks it, and I actually like that they break it and think that they had to break it to end the movie, was Is it In the Nature of Violence? What was the movie?
I may not have seen
In a Violent Nature. In a Violent
Nature. Yeah.
That one is told almost completely.
Yes.
From the first person's perspective of the slasher guy until the end.
Until the very end. You're right.
It breaks it so that you can see that last victim or the last survivor.
Yeah, you're right. And that didn't bother me that much. No,
I noticed it
okay.
when I saw it. But I was like, okay, I can go with that one.
They had a reason for making that choice.
They had a reason.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I can go with that. I'm good with that.
I think maybe this is what these guys tried to do with the last broadcast. They just didn't do it well. I mean, it's pretty jarring. I mean, because he's shooting everything up until the point he's running up to kill her, and then the edit comes, and now we see him and her, and he's committing the deed, and it's like the only one that would really would work better would be watching him put the camera down, seeing the camera go down and just catching all that footage. But then I would be asking myself, why is he doing that? Why is he allowing that camera to, show all that stuff?
You have to have a reason for it.
Yeah, especially when he's dragging the body out of the house and throwing it into his SUV or whatever. It doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make
any sense. They were caught in a rock and a hard place on that one.
You're right. It was early. There wasn't really a...
So, yeah, and I'm cutting them a lot of slack because they're like, it just was such a clever concept. It's like, okay, I'm going to give you this one. And plus the fact that they fooled me, because I really thought it was going to be another guy's face at the end there. And I really prided myself on saying, okay, I figured this one out. It's still clever. Yeah, but you sort of telegraphed it. And it's like, holy crap, where'd he come from? I mean, I can't believe it was him. And, any filmmaker that does that for me, boy, I all of a sudden it's like, okay, pretty good, guys, because it's hard to fool me. But they totally fooled me on that one. And I never saw it coming. And it's like, hey, the least likely guy, it's always the murderer. But we forget that he's even a part of this thing because he's the outside guy making a documentary. He had nothing to do with any of this stuff. It's like, wrong.
Do you have any other thoughts on the last broadcast that you want to make sure we get to?
I just, I'm going to give these guys some high marks for creativity or whatever, but the execution could have been a little better.
That's a good point to distinguish the creativity.
Yeah, I really thought it was a clever concept.
You know what? I'm gonna give them that too. It did come out before Blair Witch Project. It got a lot of slack after Blair Witch Project, and there are people who saw it and disregarded it because of the fact that Blair Witch Project came out, and then there are some of us who, like I did, I completely saw it after Blair Witch Project, and I kind of forgot about it. Literally, forgot about the movie. It did not impress me, and that was under the mindset that I just loved Blair Witch Project. But I'm gonna give them that. They came out with Blair Witch Project. It was very creative. I probably would have picked something other than the
I would have liked to have seen these guys do something else because the thing was the two stars did a little bit in the film industry, not much. They did a lot more writing than they did anything else. Most of the people you see in this film never did anything other than this.
No.
Yeah, and that's a shame because I think they had some pretty good people in this.
Yeah. So, all right. So everyone who's listening to the show, what we like to do at the very end of our program is we like to rate the movie. We like to go from 1 star to 5 star. 1 star being poor, 5 star being excellent. Where, Jim, on the spectrum do you put this film? The last broadcast.
I'm giving it a 3.5. That may seem a little high, but most of it is for the fact they came up with a very original concept and they executed as well as they could, but it's not a perfect film by any stretch. But I'm going to lean on the good side on this one because I would tell people to check it out if they hadn't seen it. Of course, now we've spoiled it all for everybody, but
I would
say watch this movie. Yeah.
I would tell people who are curious about found footage films and the history of found footage films to watch it. I don't think I would tell a normal person to go watch it because you want to, if you want someone who doesn't watch found footage films to actually kind of change their minds on them, this would not be the film that.
You're right. Yeah, it wouldn't do that.
I give the film 2.5 stars, which is more generous than it was before we talked. Because
I talked him into another point. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, half a point. I would have given it 2 stars. I would have given it 2 stars.
Okay.
I think giving it 2.5 stars because of the creativity aspect is actually, because the thing is, for the most part, I really hate when people break the aesthetic of a genre, like breaking the.
Yeah, it does. That one does hurt the film. It
but
really
the thing
does.
is, this was before there was an aesthetic.
That's right. That's true. That's true.
So I'm gonna give him a half star.
Yeah. Okay.
With that, I want to thank you, Jim, for joining us on Conversations in Horror. This has been a great episode talking about the last broadcast from 1998. I know there's not a lot of people out there who have heard any other people talk about the last broadcast, which is why we did it for the show.
No, I never have. I've never heard anyone review this.
I don't. Just for everyone who's listening to the show, what we like to do is we definitely like to touch upon films that other podcasts and other people just aren't talking about. And one of those is the last broadcast. So with that, I want to thank you for joining us, Jim. I want to thank you all for listening to us talk about the last broadcast from 1998. Make sure to check out all of our previous episodes. We have done a lot of great movies, and we've done a lot of indie movies and a lot of small movies that you may or may not have heard. Also, make sure to like, follow, subscribe, do that thing you do with your favorite podcast on your favorite podcast app, Spotify or YouTube. Also, make sure to check out our sister podcast, Conversations in Full Color, which is our Patreon exclusive podcast, and that delves into comic books, manga, and graphic novels. So you have to be a subscriber or follower in order to access that podcast. With that, I would like to say thank you so much from everyone here at Something Wicked Entertainment. We want to wish you a pleasant day and keep watching those independent films. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.